Chiefs Kingdom. I gotta be honest, this offseason is starting to feel like a turning point for Kansas City. Because on one side, the front office is making some serious moves in free agency, bringing in new pieces like Super Bowl MVP running back Kenneth Walker III, while several familiar names are leaving the roster. It's clear Brett Veach is trying to reshape this team after last season's drop-off. But at the exact same time, we just heard directly from Travis Kelce, and the message from him was simple. We're making another run at it, baby. The 14-year veteran is coming back, fired up, and already talking about how this team is hungry again. I'm Victor, and if you follow the Chiefs every day like I do, you can feel it. Something big is happening in Kansas City right now. The roster is changing, the mentality is changing, and this next season could define the next chapter of this franchise. Before we break it all down, do me a quick favor. If you're part of Chiefs Kingdom and you enjoy talking football like this, hit subscribe and help the channel reach 1,700 subscribers. Now let's get into everything that's happening in Kansas City. All right, Chiefs Kingdom. Let's talk about what's really going on with this offseason, because if you've been following the moves the way I have, you can tell right away that this is not a normal offseason for Kansas City. I'm Victor, and I'll be honest with you, this might be one of the most important offseasons we've seen during Brett Veach's time as general manager. After that huge drop from the 15-2 season in 2024, the pressure to rebuild parts of this roster is real. And you can see the front office making aggressive moves to reshape this team. First, the financial side of things. The Chiefs came into this offseason dealing with one of the toughest salary cap situations in the league. But Veach and the front office started working their way out of it with restructures, releases, and one huge decision: trading star cornerback Trent McDuffie to the Rams. That move alone changed the financial picture and gave Kansas City more flexibility with both cap space and draft picks. And when you look at the roster right now, it's clear why all this work had to happen. There are needs all over the team: wide receiver depth, pass rush help, secondary reinforcements. This roster has multiple holes that have to be addressed if the Chiefs want to stay in the championship conversation. But at the same time, this hasn't just been about players leaving. There have also been some important additions. One of the biggest signings so far has been safety Alohi Gilman, who signed a 3-year deal worth about $24.5 million. After losing Brian Cook in free agency, the secondary needed a veteran presence, and Gilman brings experience and versatility after spending 6 seasons with the Chargers. Another move that caught attention was the defensive line signing of Khyiris Tonga. For years, the Chiefs rotated players in the interior defensive line, but Tonga brings a stronger run-stopping presence and signed a 3-year deal that gives him some long-term stability with the team. Then there's the wide receiver situation. Kansas City re-signed Tyquan Thornton to a 2-year deal worth up to $14 million. And honestly, if you watched him last season, you probably felt like he deserved more opportunities than he got. When he was on the field, he showed flashes of being a real weapon in this offense. But the biggest headline signing so far has been the one we talked about earlier: Kenneth Walker III. That move alone tells you how serious the Chiefs are about changing the offensive dynamic. Walker comes in as a Super Bowl MVP running back with speed, explosiveness, and the ability to create big plays out of the backfield. Kansas City clearly decided they needed a stronger run game after the offensive struggles of the past couple of seasons. And that decision also explains why we've seen certain departures. Running back Isaiah Pacheco, for example, signed with the Detroit Lions. It wasn't a huge surprise after the Walker signing, but it still marks the end of a chapter for a player who brought a lot of energy and physical running to this offense. The defense also took some hits. Safety Brian Cook left for the Bengals on a 3-year deal worth over $40 million, which leaves the safety group looking very thin right now. Cornerback Jalen Watson also signed with the Rams, joining Trent McDuffie there, and leaving Kansas City with some real questions in the secondary moving forward. And it didn't stop there. Linebacker Leo Chenal signed with the Washington Commanders, while defensive lineman Derek Nnadi and edge rusher Malik Herring also found new homes. Even backup quarterback Gardner Minshew left, signing with the Cardinals, which now creates a new concern behind Patrick Mahomes, especially with Mahomes still working his way back to full health. So when you step back and look at everything together, this offseason has been exactly what we expected: a serious reshaping of the roster, players leaving, new players arriving, draft picks being added, cap space being managed carefully. This isn't just minor tweaking. This is a team trying to reload. And honestly, as a fan, that brings mixed emotions. On one hand, it's tough seeing familiar players leave. guys who were part of the locker room and part of the identity of this team. But on the other hand, if the Chiefs want to stay competitive in the AFC, sometimes tough decisions have to be made. Because the truth is, standing still in the NFL is the fastest way to fall behind. And right now, Brett Veach is clearly trying to make sure that doesn't happen in Kansas City. But here's where things start to get really interesting. Because while the front office is reshaping the roster with all these moves, one of the most important voices in this entire franchise has just spoken about the direction of the team and what he plans to do next. And when I heard what he said about coming back for another season and making another run with this team, it honestly tells you a lot about the mentality inside that locker room right now. Let's talk about that next. Now let's talk about the second story, because to me, this might be the part that tells you the most about where this team's head is right now, and that's Travis Kelce coming back and speaking openly about it. Not just coming back on paper, not just signing the one-year deal. I'm talking about the way he talked about it, the energy, the tone, the urgency. Because when Kelce went on Pat McAfee's show and said, "We're making another run at it, baby," that didn't sound like a guy dragging himself back for one more season. That sounded like a guy who has recharged, stepped back, and decided he still has something left to give. And honestly, for Chiefs fans, that matters a lot. Because Kelce is more than just a tight end. He's more than just a Hall of Fame player. He's one of the emotional centers of this whole era of Chiefs football. When he speaks, people listen. When he sounds fired up, the fan base feels it. And when he says he can't wait to get back in the building, that tells you this team still has leaders who believe there's another run in them. What stood out to me most was how honest he sounded about the process. He admitted that the decision was short and brief, but he also explained something that honestly makes a lot of sense. He said, "You have to step back after a season, let the emotions settle, look at where your body is, and then decide." That doesn't sound like indecision to me. That sounds like a veteran being smart. That sounds like a player who knows exactly how much this game takes out of you and wanted to make sure that if he came back, he was coming back for the right reasons. And once he got that rest, once he got that distance, the message became clear. He said he's still in love with the game. That's huge, because at this stage of Kelce's career, it's not about proving he belongs. Nobody needs to debate his legacy. That is already settled. The numbers are there. The rings are there. The playoff moments are there. He doesn't need another season to validate anything. So if he's coming back, it's because he still wants the grind. He still wants the locker room. He still wants the work. And as a fan, I love hearing that, because it means this isn't some ceremonial farewell tour. He's not coming back just to wave at the crowd and cash one last check. He's coming back because he believes there's unfinished business. And then he said something else that really caught my attention. He talked about how the Chiefs are making moves and specifically shouted out the front office for going out and getting Kenneth Walker III, the Super Bowl MVP. That tells me Kelce isn't just focused on his own decision. He's paying attention to the direction of the roster. He sees what Brett Veach and Andy Reid are trying to do, and he likes it. That matters because it connects directly to the first story. In the first part, we talked about how this offseason feels like a full-on roster reset. Guys are leaving. New players are arriving. The Chiefs are spending aggressively in certain spots, creating room in others, and clearly trying to rework the identity of this team. That kind of offseason can feel unstable from the outside. As fans, you can look at it and feel excited one minute and uneasy the next. But then you hear Kelce talk, and suddenly the whole thing feels more focused. Because from his perspective, this isn't chaos. This is a team gearing up for another run. He talked about getting back in the gym, getting back to the craft, coming back with fresh legs, fresh plays, and the hunger to become a championship team again. That is exactly what you want to hear from one of your leaders after a disappointing season. And let's be honest, the Chiefs needed that voice. After a season where things slipped more than anyone expected, where the roster started showing cracks, where the offense didn't always look like itself, there was always going to be a question hanging over this offseason. Does this team still have the edge? Kelce's comments make it sound like the answer inside the building is yes. He even used the phrase dog mentality. And that's not just a throwaway line. That's a mentality. That's a team saying, we know what went wrong and we're not running from it. As a fan, that gives me more confidence than almost any press release could. Because talent matters, Cap space matters, signings matter. All of that is real. But mentality matters too. And when you've got a legend like Kelce choosing to come back and sounding motivated instead of sentimental, that tells you the locker room still has real competitive fire. Now, I'm not saying everything is suddenly perfect. It's not. There are still holes on this roster. The free agency tracker makes that obvious. The Chiefs still have needs at wide receiver, edge rusher, and cornerback. They've lost important players. The secondary took real hits. The depth chart still has questions. So this is not some storybook, everything is fixed situation. But when you combine what we saw in the first story with what Kelce said here, the picture starts to come together. The front office is active, the roster is changing, the offense is getting new pieces, and the leaders still believe. That combination is powerful, because one of the biggest dangers after a disappointing year is drifting. Half measures, confusion, trying to live off the past. What the Chiefs are showing right now feels different from that. It feels like a team that knows it got punched in the mouth last season and is responding with urgency. And if Kelce is right, if this team really is making another run at it, then this offseason might be remembered as the moment Kansas City chose not to fade but to reload. So when you put both stories together, Chiefs Kingdom, the message is pretty clear. The Chiefs are in the middle of one of the biggest transition points of this era, but they are not acting like a team that's backing down. The free agency tracker shows a roster being reshaped in real time. Key departures, aggressive signings, new cap flexibility, and obvious urgency from Brett Veach. And then Travis Kelce steps up and basically says, yeah, we see all of it too, and we're going for it. That matters, because it tells you this offseason isn't just about replacing players. It's about resetting the tone of the team. To me, that makes this moment more positive than negative, but also decisive. This is a crossroads offseason. The Chiefs are betting that hunger, leadership, and smart roster moves can push them back into contention fast. And honestly, I respect that. I'd rather see a team attack its flaws than pretend they don't exist. As a fan, I come away from these two stories feeling something I think a lot of Chiefs fans are probably feeling right now. Cautious excitement, not comfort, not blind optimism, but real excitement, because the team looks motivated, the front office looks active, and the leaders sound ready. And when Travis Kelce is talking like that, it's hard not to believe there's still some real fight left in this group.